الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. The author, he mentioned rahimahullah ta'ala kitabu Al-Hajj, kitabu Al-Hajj, the chapter of Al-Hajj, making the pilgrimage to the sacred house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making the pilgrimage to the sacred house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The people of knowledge, they mention Al-Hajj lughatan al-qasdu, al-qasd, that the word Al-Hajj linguistically, it means to intend something and to head in that direction or to go there. Al-qasd. One will say in the Arabic language, hajja al-tulabu al-masjidah, hajja al-tulabu al-masjidah, ay qasaduhu wa dhahabu ilayhi, qasaduhu wa dhahabu ilayhi. Hajja yahujju yani qasada yaqsidu. This is the linguistic understanding. The linguistic understanding. It's been mentioned likewise a more specific understanding linguistically, وَالْقَصْدُ إِلَى مُعَظَّمٍ, yani to intend to go to something that is venerated and held in high regards and respected. Another linguistic meaning that has been mentioned, al-qasdu al-mutakarrar, a repeated intention or something that is intended repeatedly and time after time. And all three of these meanings are found in the legislative understanding of Al-Hajj, and that is to make the pilgrimage to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قصد بيت الله الحرام لأداء المناسك مناسك الحج تقربا إلى الله سبحانه وتعالى. So this is no doubt a person who makes Hajj, he intends to go to that house and he turns himself in that direction and he devotes himself to Allah in doing that. So there is a qasd, yani that is hissiyan, that he would do physically and he would head in that direction and he would intend to go there and to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also al-qasd yani ma'nawiyan, yani spiritually, that he would intend to devote himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entirely and to head to perform these great sacred rites and these sacred lands, seeking the pleasure and the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also, it is well known that Hajj is legislated to be performed over and over, one time every year. So all of these linguistic understandings, or all of these linguistic meanings have been mentioned here. Al-qasd, yani mutlaqan, or al-qasd ila mu'azzam, or al-qasd al-mutakarrar. All of this is intended, or all of this is understood and included in the legislative meaning. So legislatively, Al-Hajj is قصد بيت الله الحرام لأداء مناسك الحج لأداء المناسك تقربا إلى الله تعالى في زمن مخصوص. So legislatively the meaning of Al-Hajj قصد بيت الله الحرام, to intend to go to the sacred house of Allah لأداء المناسك في زمن مخصوص تقربا إلى الله تعالى في زمن مخصوص تقربا إلى الله تعالى. So to head and to direct oneself and to go to the sacred house of Allah Azza wa Jal to perform the sacred rites of Al-Hajj, in a specific time, seeking nearness, seeking to draw near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, the legislative meaning, Al-Hajj shar'an qasdu Bayt Allah al-Haram, qasdu Bayti Allah al-Haram لأداء المناسك في زمن مخصوص تقربا إلى الله تعالى. So it has a similar meaning to the linguistic meaning, but it's more specific. So this means to intend to go to the house of Allah, to make the pilgrimage to the sacred house of Allah Azza wa Jal with the intention of performing the sacred rites, the manasik, with the intention of performing the sacred rites of this great act of worship, the manasik. And it is in a specific time, fi zamanin makhsus, and it is done seeking to draw near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we're going to discuss this legislative definition in a bit of detail. So the people of knowledge, they mentioned Al-Hajj qasdu baytillahi al-haram, that one he would intend to go to the sacred house of Allah Azza wa Jal. But it is known in performing the manasik or the sacred rites of Al-Hajj that one he will go to a number of places. And he will not only go to Al-Masjid al-Haram, rather likewise he will go to Mina, and also he will go to Arafah, and also he will go to Muzdalifah, and also he will go to Stone al-Jamarat. And there are different places that he would intend to go to. But they have mentioned that the definition here, qasdu baytillahi al-haram, you need to direct oneself to go and to intend to go to the sacred house of Allah Azza wa Jalla, because this is the most sacred of those lands that one will go to. This is the most sacred of those lands that one will go to. All of these lands are from the Mashaa'ir. All of these lands are from the Mashaa'ir and the sacred lands, and going to there are from the sacred rites of Al-Hajj. And he going to Mina, and likewise going to Arafah, and going to Muzdalifah, and going to the Jamarat, and the likes like this. All of this is from the Mashaa'ir. They are all from the Mashaa'ir and the sacred lands, and going there in these proper times, in the proper manner, is all from the sacred rites of Al-Hajj. Is all from the sacred rites of Al-Hajj. The people of knowledge, if we remember in the classes about the matters of the students and the teachers, they say al-gharat tahta al-laghat. Al-gharat tahta al-laghat. The mistake, it is underneath noises and distractions. So if there are people talking in the back or making noises and the likes like this becomes a distraction. And this is a reason for the teacher to make a mistake. So to try to not make lots of commotion and noises during the class in cooperation, barakallah fikum. If somebody needs to talk, then they can go into the other room. There's plenty of space in this masjid, alhamdulillah, for individuals to sit and talk together if that's what they need to do. Barakallah fikum. So qasdu bayti Allahi al-haram. So this is the most sacred of those lands. The most sacred of those lands, and the most noble of those places. Rather, the most sacred place on earth is al-Masjid al-Haram. Is al-Masjid al-Haram. And likewise, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam has indicated this meaning as well in a hadith corrected by Al-Bukhari and Muslim from the hadith of Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Man hajja hadha al-bayt, man hajja hadha al-bayt, falam yarfuth, walam yafsuq, raja'a kayawma waladatu ummuhu." Raja'a kayawma waladatu ummuhu. That whoever made the Hajj to this house, man hajja hadha al-bayt, whoever made the Hajj to this house, meaning to the sacred house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-Masjid al-Haram. Man hajja hadha al-bayt, whoever makes the Hajj, the pilgrimage to this house, falam yarfuth, walam yafsuq, raja'a kayawma waladatu ummuhu. Then he did not act in a manner of indecency, and he's speaking foully and acting foully. And likewise, he didn't commit any sins while he's on the journey for Hajj. He did not speak or act indecently and speak in vulgar, having vulgar actions and foul statements and the likes, and nor did he fall into sin and actions of disobedience in this journey. Raja'a kayawma waladatu ummu. He will return from his journey like the day that his mother gave birth to him, meaning free of all sin and pure of all blame and of all fault and of all error. So the point here is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man hajja hadha al-bayt," whoever made the Hajj to this house. So therefore, this is the greatest of those places that one will intend to go to in order to perform the Hajj. So from this aspect, the people have defined Hajj shar'an qasdu baytillahi al-haram. Qasdu baytillahi al-haram. After that, لماذا يقصدون هذا البيت؟ لأداء المناسك. لأداء المناسك. In order to perform the manasik. In order to perform the manasik. These are terms that are very important to understand and to know and to be familiar with regards to studying the chapter of Al-Hajj. And every chapter here that we have studied so far, they all have their special terminologies that the people use to refer to the different actions and the different rulings and the likes. In the chapter of Tahara has preceded, there are a number of mustalahat and terminology that the people of knowledge use to discuss the affairs related to Tahara. And likewise in Salah, and likewise in Zakat, and likewise in Siyam. In every one of these chapters that we have studied previously, the people of knowledge, they have terminology. They have terminologies, they have mustalahat that they use in order to refer to these affairs and to clarify the rulings of these affairs. And some of them are mushtaraka, and they will be used in more than one chapter, and others are specific to each chapter. Even some of them have the same understanding, but they will be used in different terms in different chapters. Like in the chapter of Tahara, we have seen that with regards to those things that invalidate the Tahara, they're called nawaqid. They're called nawaqid. And with regards to the Salat, those things that invalidate the Salat, they're called mubtilat. They're called mubtilat. And with regards to those affairs that invalidate the fast, they're called mufsidat. So all of them are nawaqid, and all of them are mubtilat, and all of them are mufsidat. But the people of knowledge, when they refer to tahara, they call them mufsidat, they call them nawaqid. And whenever they refer to salah, they call them the mubtilat. And with regards to the fasting, they call them mufsidat. And they all have the same meaning, but the terminology is a bit different. And this is from the methodology of the people of knowledge. So it's very beneficial to understand these terms in order to understand what the people of knowledge intend. And from the terms that are very important in the chapter of Hajj is this term here, al-manasik. Manasik al-Hajj, and likewise al-nusuk. And this is what we discuss now, because this is from that definition. Qasdu baytillahi al-haram li-adai al-manasik. Li-adai al-manasik. Yani huna manasik al-Hajj. So the people of knowledge, they mention al-manasik jam'u mansak. Mansak, manasik wa mansak. And mansak, this could be a masdar mimi, or it could be ism zaman or ism makan. It could be ism zaman or ism makan, mansak. And the verb is nasaka yansuku. Nasaka yansuku. Min babi nasara. Daraba yadribu. Nasaka yansuku. Idhan nasara. Min babi nasara yansuru. Nasaka yansuku. You say nasaka yansuku, naskan wa nuskan wa mansakan wa nusukan. It has a number of masadir. It has a number of masadir. And this word, it has a number of meanings likewise. And this is from the richness and the beauty of the Arabic language. That one word, it would have a number of meanings. And the means to identify the intended meaning is to look at the context of the sentence or the context of the speech and the likes like this. So from the meanings of nasaka yansuku, naskan or nuskan is al-ta'ah or al-ta'abbud. Al-ta'ah or ta'abbud or tazahud. You say nasaka al-shaykh ay ta'abbada wa tazahada. Ta'abbada wa tazahada. Yani tanassaka أو نسك ينسك أو تنسك يتنسك يعني تعبد وتزهد عبد الله عز وجل وأطاعه, to perform acts of obedience and to surrender and submit oneself in devotion and worship. So this is from the meaning of al-manasik. It has this meaning here, the actions of obedience and the sacred rites of worship that are a means to draw near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. نسك الشيخ يعني تعبد وتزهد. And to call نسكت لله عز وجل يعني تقربت إليه. تنسك إليه يعني تنسك لله سبحانه وتعالى يعني تقرب إليه بأعمال الطاعات والبر. So this is from the meaning of this word. So النسك also is from the same derivative. النسك also has a number of meanings likewise. Sometimes it could be used as a plural and other times as a singular. And the singular form. So on this understanding here, النسك, it means الطاعة والعبادة وكل ما يتقرب به إلى الله سبحانه وتعالى. النسك, it is الطاعة والعبادة وكل ما يتقرب به إلى الله سبحانه وتعالى. It's called النسك. And this is a general linguistic meaning. The actions of obedience and the actions of worship, they're called nusuk. And everything that is a means to draw near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, likewise, this is called a nusuk. And from this understanding, from nasaka yansuku here has the meaning of ta'abbada again. Or tanassaka likewise has a similar meaning. And the one that is considered nasik, he's considered abid. And nasik, al-abid. من نسك ينسك يعني عبد يعبد أو تعبد يتعبد. فالناسك هو العابد. الناسك هو العابد والنسك العبادة. So this likewise has come in the book of Allah Azza wa Jalla. وَأَرِنَا مَنَاسِكَنَا يعني from the statement of Ibrahim عليه الصلاة والسلام يعني بصرنا بمعالم عباداتنا, to clarify for us and to show to us يعني the means and the ways to worship you and to draw near to you, the manasik. وأرنا مناسكنا يعني متعبداتنا وأعمال الأعمال التي نتقرب بها إليك يا رب. And this is the meaning of the word manasik here. Any of those actions of obedience and those actions of worship and devotion. So this is from the general meaning likewise of al-mansik or al-manasik. And likewise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned in His book, لِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ جَعَلْنَا مَنْسَكًا لِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ جَعَلْنَا مَنْسَكًا هُمْ نَاسِكُو. For every ummah we have made for them mansak. We have made for them mansak, yani we have made for them sacred rites and actions of devotion that they must perform. And actions of devotion that they must perform. لِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ جَعَلْنَا مَنْسَكًا يعني شريعة وعبادة. يعني شريعة وعبادة. For every nation, for every ummah, we have made obligatory upon them sacred rites and ordained upon them actions of devotion and worship that must be established. And this is from that general meaning. This is from that general meaning. But likewise, in nusuk, it has another meaning. It has another meaning, and that is an-nasika or dhabiha. And many times the word nusuk is used to refer to this. So sometimes the word nusuk is used to refer to actions of obedience and ta'ah. Actions of obedience and ta'ah and actions of worship and ibadah. And other times it's used to refer to slaughtering for the sake of Allah specifically. To slaughter an animal for the sake of Allah specifically. Also from that verb, you say an-nasika. Nasaka yansuku ay dhabaha yadhbahu. Nasaka nasikatan. Yani dhabaha dhabihatan. So this also has the meaning of a nusuk. And nusuk is to slaughter an animal, seeking nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Seeking nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is used commonly in the Arabic language and also in the legislation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned in His book, فَفِدْيَةٌ مِّن صِيَامٍ أَوْ صَدَقَةٍ أَوْ نُسُك. And so this is the shahid. This is from the fidya mentioned in Hajj. فَفِدْيَةٌ مِّن صِيَامٍ أَوْ صَدَقَةٍ أَوْ نُسُك. That one he will make a fidya, either from fasting or from giving charity or from the nusuk. The nusuk, what is intended here is a nasika, yani a dhabiha, that he will slaughter an animal, he will slaughter a shat, a sheep, or a goat. Likewise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned in His book, ordering His Prophet to say and to believe, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Say that indeed that verily my salah and my nusuk, وَنُسُكِي yani nasikati, yani dhabihati, yani my slaughtering. Say that my prayer and my slaughtering and my life and my death, وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, is for Allah alone, the Lord of the worlds. The Lord of the worlds. So this term here, al-manasik. So sometimes it's used in a general sense to refer to all actions of obedience and all actions of worship. And it has the same meaning as a nusuk likewise. Al-manasik wa nusuk. And they're the actions of a worship and they're actions of obedience that will draw one close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those actions that Allah has legislated and that He's pleased with from statement and from deed, that are means to draw near to Allah. A more specific meaning likewise of the word nusuk is the animal that is slaughtered. The animal that is slaughtered. And slaughtering that animal likewise is from this same meaning as well. The verb is used in that same way. And also what is well known and commonly used in the legislation as well with regards to this term is that it's used to refer to the actions and the deeds and the sacred rites of Al-Hajj. And that's what is intended here. And that's what is intended here. The manasik, they are mawaqif النسك وأعمالها وهي العبادات التي تفعل في الحج والعمرة وهي العبادات التي تفعل في الحج والعمرة. So المناسك يعني legislatively, after mentioning these linguistic meanings, مواقف النسك وأعمالها, they are the places of performing the sacred rites and the actions of those sacred rites. The places of performing those sacred rites and the actions of performing those sacred rites, the sacred rites of Al-Hajj wal-Umrah. So we have Manasik Al-Hajj and we have Manasik Al-Umrah. And these are those actions of worship and the places that they're performed. The actions of worship that are performed and likewise those places as well. And likewise those places as well, they're all called Al-Manasik. So this is Al-Hajj. Then this is Al-Hajj. It is Qasdu Baytillahi Al-Haram li-adai al-manasik. Li-adai al-manasik. Al-manasik, yani those sacred rites and the actions of Hajj that are performed in those specific places. Some of those actions are performed in Al-Masjid Al-Haram, and others from those actions are performed in Mina, and others from those actions are performed in Arafah, and others in Muzdalifah, and the likes like this. So there are different places and different actions that are performed, different manasik. So this is the issue of Al-Hajj. Then the people of knowledge, they say, fi zamanin makhsus, in a specific time. It's not allowed to perform these actions, these manasik. It's not allowed to intend to go to Al-Masjid Al-Haram and to perform these sacred rites except in a specific time. And they are ashhurun ma'lumat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned in His book, Al-Hajj ashhurun ma'lumat. That Al-Hajj, it is ashhurun ma'lumat. The Al-Hajj is in well-known months. Who knows the months of Al-Hajj? Who knows the months of Al-Hajj? How many months are they? How many months are the months of Al-Hajj? Al-Hajj ashhurun ma'lumat. فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج. 2 months. That's it? No more, no less?
Yes. It is more.
It's more.
Yes.
So it's 2 months and
Half.
half. Okay, we're getting close. MashaAllah. 3 months. The majority of the people of knowledge, the Jumhur al-Ulama, they say that Ashhur al-Hajj, they are Shawwal wa Dhul Qi'dah wa Ashrun min Dhul Hijjah. That they are this month that we're in now, Shawwal, and the next month is Dhul Qi'dah, and the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. These are the months or the days of Al-Hajj. These are the months or the days of Al-Hajj. These are the days that it's allowed to enter into these manasik that we're discussing. It's allowed to enter into the ihram to perform these manasik in these months and these days. So في زمن مخصوص يعني في شوال وذي القعدة وعشر من ذي الحجة. And this is what has been mentioned by the majority of the people of knowledge. The majority of the scholars, they have mentioned this. And Al-Bukhari has mentioned this in his Sahih likewise, and he has mentioned it from Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma. And he mentioned it ta'liqan, but the chain has come authentically, and it has come yani mawsulan, and it is authentic on Ibn Umar that he said he is Shawwal wa Dhul Qi'dah wa Ashrun min Dhil Hijjah. That the days of the months of Hajj, Al-Hajj ashhurun ma'lumat, they are Shawwal, which is now, and next month, which is Dhul Qi'dah or Dhul Qa'dah, and then 10 days from the month after that, which is the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. These are the days or the months and the days of Hajj. So it's 2 months and 10 days. 2 months and 10 days. These are the days that it's allowed to enter into these manasik. Before that, it's not allowed. And Allah knows best. تقربا إلى الله. So we've seen now it is قصد بيت الله الحرام لأداء المناسك في زمن مخصوص تقربا إلى الله تعالى. So he must intend to make this pilgrimage and to go to this land and to go to the house of Allah Azza wa Jal to perform these sacred rites, and he must go in this specific time likewise, but he must do that seeking to draw near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the one who goes showing off or wanting to be heard or wanting to be known and the likes like this is not considered. Or the one who goes, for example, his whole intention to go to these sacred lands in these sacred days and sacred times is in order to steal and to rip off the people, to steal and to rip off the pilgrims. And yasrik al-hujjaj. Is there anybody who would do that? Yes, there are people who would do that. Rather, there's people who are doing that. The only intention they have to go to Mecca in these days is to steal from the people making Hajj. Waliyadhu billah. So this would not be considered. This would not be accepted from him if he had this intention. This is why he's going, and the likes like this. Or if he's going to show off, or if he's going to be heard, or because he wants the people to praise him and to say about him Hajj, yani that he makes Hajj all the time, and he made this many Hajj, and he made that many Hajj, and the likes like this. All of this, yani would not be accepted from him because it must be for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. So therefore, to summarize, Al-Hajj lughatan al-qasdu. al-qasd. To the word al-hajj linguistically, it means to intend something. It means to intend something and to go somewhere. And to intend it, meaning to head in that direction and to go there. To head in that direction and to go there, or to do that. And legislatively, it means قصد بيت الله الحرام لأداء المناسك في زمن مخصوص تقربا إلى الله تعالى. تقربا إلى الله تعالى. Likewise, in the same chapter, we discussed the issue of al-umrah. And whenever we discuss the hajj, we discuss the umrah. And they're closely related. And the umrah, it is al-hajj al-asghar, the smaller hajj. It is the smaller hajj. So the definition of umrah, lughatan or linguistically, the people of knowledge mention likewise it is qasd. It has the same meaning as al-hajj. And others, they mentioned that al-umrah, the meaning of umrah is a ziyarah. As a ziyarah. And they say that al-umrah هي ziyarah. والمعتمر هو الزائر. المعتمر الزائر. So this is the linguistic meaning. The person, he made the umrah to somewhere, to some place, for example, and it's mentioned that it's to a place that is well occupied and that is full of life and the likes like this, then this one is considered أنه اعتمر لغة أو هذه عمرة لغة. But as for in the legislation, then it's very similar to the hajj. It's very similar to the hajj. Only it doesn't have a specific time. So the people of knowledge, they mention شرعا هو زيارة البيت الحرام لأداء مناسك العمرة تقربا إلى الله تعالى. تقربا إلى الله تعالى. We could even say the same definition that we memorized before with regards to hajj, only we take away the zaman al-makhsus. We will say قصد بيت الله الحرام لأداء المناسك تقربا إلى الله تعالى. تقربا إلى الله تعالى. We understand this? What is hajj? قصد بيت الله الحرام لأداء المناسك في زمن مخصوص تقربا إلى الله تعالى. What is the umrah? قصد بيت الله الحرام لأداء المناسك تقربا إلى الله تعالى. تقربا إلى الله تعالى. Because hajj, it has a specific time, and umrah, it does not have a specific time. And both of them have manasik. And the first one we talk about hajj, manasik al-hajj. And in the second, when we talk about umrah, manasik al-umrah. Others from the people of knowledge, they will even be more detailed in the definition of al-umrah. And they will say it is قصد بيت الله الحرام للطواف والسعي والحلق بإحرام تقربا إلى الله تعالى. They'll mention all of the actions, and that is because the actions of al-umrah, there are only a few, so you can mention them one after the other. تقربا إلى الله تعالى. قصد بيت الله الحرام لأداء الطواف والسعي والحلق بإحرام تقربا إلى الله تعالى. That a person, he will intend to go to the sacred house of Allah Azza wa Jal in order to make tawaf and to make sa'i and to shave his head, أو تقصير والحلق أو تقصير and while he's in the state of ihram, seeking nearness to Allah Azza wa Jal. So they will actually mention the actions that one will perform in the umrah. And these actions likewise are performed in the hajj, but there are along with them other actions as well. So in general, the umrah is to intend to go to the house of Allah Azza wa Jal. You need to go there in order to perform the manasik, the sacred rites of al-umrah, seeking nearness and seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the definition linguistically and legislatively of al-hajj wal-umrah. With regards to the virtue of al-hajj, this is well known. Al-hajj al-ruknu al-khamis min arkan al-islam. Al-ruknu al-khamis min arkan al-islam. The virtue of al-hajj is well known. That it is the fifth pillar from the great pillars of al-Islam. It has been collected by Al-Bukhari and Muslim from the hadith of Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, the well-known narration. Buniya al-Islamu ala khams. That is, al-Islam is based or built upon five. Five great pillars. And from them, وحج البيت. And making the pilgrimage to the house of Allah Azza wa Jal. And likewise in the hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam, from the hadith of Umar radiyallahu anhu, whenever Jibreel alayhi salam, he asked the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, أخبرني عن الإسلام. inform me about Al-Islam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever he informed him, he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, تشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا رسول الله وتقيم الصلاة وتؤتي الزكاة وتصوم رمضان وتحج البيت إن استطعت إليه سبيلا وتحج البيت إن استطعت إليه سبيلا. وهذا هو الشاهد. هذا هو الشاهد. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever Jibril asked him alayhi salam to inform him about Al-Islam, he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is to testify that there's nothing worthy of worship except for Allah, and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and to establish the salah, and to pay the zakat, and to fast the month of Ramadan, and to make the pilgrimage to the house of Allah Azza wa Jal if you are able to. And to make the pilgrimage to the house of Allah Azza wa Jal if you are able to. So this is a pillar from the pillars of Al-Islam. This is a pillar from the great pillars of Al-Islam. So the virtue of Al-Hajj is well known. The virtue of Hajj is well known. Likewise, what has proceeded from the hadith of Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, to further clarify the virtue and the great status and benefit of Al-Hajj, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Man hajja hadha al-bayt falam yarfuth walam yafsuq raja'a kayawma waladathu ummuhu." That whoever makes the pilgrimage to this house and he does not act indecently or speak in vulgar or act in a foul manner, nor does he fall into sins and actions of disobedience, then he will return like the day that his mother gave birth to him. Then he'll return like the day that his brother gave birth to him, meaning he'll return with no sins. He'll return pure. All of that which has proceeded from his sins will be forgiven. Likewise, this hadith is mutafaqun alayhi. Also, from the hadith of Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he mentioned al-umratu al-umrah kafaratun lima baynahuma. To further clarify as well, the virtue of al-umrah. Al-umratu ila al-umrati kafaratun lima baynahuma. والحج المبرور ليس له جزاء إلا الجنة. والحج المبرور ليس له جزاء إلا الجنة. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said that from one umrah to the next is a means of expiation between the two of them. And that which occurred from one umrah, if a person were to follow it up and to make another umrah, he will make umrah, he would travel to make umrah, and then he will travel again after that to make umrah again. That which occurs from sins between the two of them will be expiated by way of these travels and by way of performing these sacred rites. I need to further emphasize and to clarify the great virtue of umrah as well. Al-umratu ila al-umrati kafaratun lima baynahuma. That when he makes the umrah after he already made the umrah, meaning in different journeys, this is a means of expiating the sins that had befallen between the two of them. And then he said sallallahu alayhi wasallam, further to emphasize and clarify the great status and virtue of Al-Hajj, he said sallallahu alayhi wasallam, وَالْحَجُّ الْمَبْرُورُ لَيْسَ لَهُ جَزَاءٌ إِلَّا الْجَنَّةِ. Al-Hajj al-Mabrur, yani al-Maqbool, the righteous Hajj. The righteous Hajj, the Hajj that is accepted, that's performed properly, that's performed sincerely and purely for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, and that is performed according to the Sunnah and following the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam precisely, without falling into sin or actions of disobedience, without arguing and being rude, and without raising one's voice and coming out of character, and without using filthy money to make the Hajj and the likes like this. The one who makes the Hajj in this manner until he finished and his Hajj is considered Mabroor, then there is no reward for that except for paradise. There's no reward for it except for paradise. The only reward he will have is Jannah. And in the Jannah, this is from the greatest of rewards. And in the Jannah, one he will taste the greatest delight, and that is to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This hadith likewise is mutafaqun alayhi. Likewise, it has been narrated by Tirmidhi and Nasa'i from the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, to emphasize again, to clarify the benefit and the virtue of Al-Hajj wal-Umrah, and the importance to show concern for this affair, and an encouragement for all of us to hope and to desire and to make preparation to make Hajj and to make Umrah and to strive to perform these great sacred rites. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Tabi'u bayn al-Hajj wal-Umrah, فإنهما ينفيان الفقر والذنوب كما ينفي الكير خبث الحديد والذهب والفضة وليس للحج المبرور ثواب إلا الجنة." The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in this narration, he says, "Tabi'u bayn al-Hajj wal-Umrah." تابعوا يعني follow up and make Hajj and Umrah consecutively. تابعوا بين الحج والعمرة. And make Hajj and make it again. Make Umrah and make it again. And make it again and make it again if you're able to. Make it again and make it again if you're able to. We'll see inshallah that the obligation of Hajj is only one time in a lifetime, but it's recommended to make it as much as one can. It's an obligation to perform it once in a lifetime for those who are able, but it's recommended to make it time after time. And likewise the Umrah as well. تابعوا بين الحج والعمرة. To make the Hajj and Umrah consecutively. And time after time. Time after time. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he clarifies why. لأنهما ينفيان الفقر والذنوب كما ينفي الكير خبث الحديد والذهب والفضة. So to make the Hajj consecutively and the Umrah likewise, to make the Hajj and the Umrah consecutively, any time after time, because both of them they remove poverty and sins the same way that the bellows removes the filth from the iron and the gold and the silver. From the iron and the gold and the silver. And so the same way that whenever a person he has iron, or he has a piece of iron or a piece of gold or a piece of silver, many times whenever it's a solid piece and it's from it's from the earth or it's in its natural form, it will be mixed with impurities. So these impurities will need to be removed. So the way that they remove them is they'll put them in fire. They'll put them in extreme heat. And they'll heat them up until those impurities are burned away. Until those impurities are burned away, and whenever it's finished, there's nothing there except for pure iron. Pure iron, which is beneficial and strong, or pure gold, or pure silver, which is very valuable and beneficial likewise. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying in the same way that these elements here, they're purified. They are purified by this fire and by this heat, making Hajj and Umrah consecutively, time after time, purifies and removes poverty and removes the sins. The people of knowledge, they say يزيلان الفقر الظاهر بحصول غنى اليد. That making Hajj and Umrah time after time, it removes the poverty that is apparent. The poverty that is apparent. الفقر الظاهر بحصول غنى اليد, by obtaining the wealth in the hands, meaning that it's a means literally to obtain wealth, that he will come out of poverty physically, and he will be from the wealthy, but likewise also by following up Hajj and Umrah and making them time after time, as well it removes the faqr, faqr al-batin بحصول غنى القلب, by obtaining the richness of the heart. So it's a means to purify and to rectify a person's worldly life, and likewise a means to rectify his spiritual life and to cleanse his heart and to purify his soul. So by making Hajj and Umrah time after time, this is a means to purify and to remove poverty of the heart first and foremost, where a person, he will be content with what Allah has decreed for him, and he will be sufficed with the decree of Allah for him, and he will grant him ease and peace of mind in his heart, and satisfaction and contentment with Allah as his Lord, and with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as his prophet and messenger, and with Islam as his way of life. And likewise, he will be a means as well to physically remove him from poverty. And this is something that is from the amazing affairs. A person, he will spend his money and give it away to make this journey and to go to Hajj, and in return he will increase in wealth. And in turn it will be a means for him to increase in wealth, not to go further into poverty, but rather to increase in wealth. And likewise, for his heart to be purified and his soul to be purified. So these are from the great benefits, and there are many narrations clarifying the virtues of Al-Hajj and Al-Umrah. But the Hajj that is intended here and the Umrah that is intended here, the one that has this great benefit is the one that is performed for the sake of Allah. The one that has no reward except for Jannah is the one that the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned, Al-Hajj Al-Babroor, ليس له ثواب إلا الجنة, ليس له جزاء إلا الجنة. That Al-Hajj Al-Mabrur, it has no reward, it has no recompense except for paradise. So the people of knowledge, they have mentioned the description of Al-Hajj Al-Mabrur. So not everybody who makes Hajj barra bihajjihi, and not everybody who makes Hajj, he returns with Hajj Al-Mabrur. Not everybody who makes Hajj, his Hajj is accepted. This is something that one must understand. Not everybody who makes Hajj, he returns in this manner. He returns like the day that his mother gave him birth. But this is the opportunity that those who make Hajj, they have. This is the opportunity that those who make Hajj, they have. So from the description of this is what has come from An-Nawawi. Rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, Al-Asah wal-Ashhar أن المبرور هو الذي لا يخالطه إثم مأخوذ من البر وهو الطاعة. He said that what is most correct and most well known, and meaning amongst the people of knowledge, the Babroor, the Hajj that's considered Babroor, it is the one that is not mixed with sin. It's the one that's not mixed with any type of sin. لا يخالطه إثم. It's not mixed with any type of sin. Not mixed with any type of sin, inwardly or outwardly. Inwardly or outwardly. Inwardly and outwardly. He said, مأخوذ من البر. It's taken from al-bir, the word al-bir, which means ta'a, obedience, righteousness. Righteousness. Al-bir, it means righteousness. It means righteousness. It means obedience. So al-Hajj al-Babroor, the one that was done obediently to Allah Azza wa Jal, the one that was done properly, and the one that was done correctly, the one that was done correctly. He says likewise, وَقِيلَ هُوَ الْمَقْبُولُ. And also it's mentioned that it's the one that is accepted. It's the one that is accepted. And then he mentioned the great benefit, rahimahullah. He says, وَمِنْ عَلَامَاتِ الْقَبُولِ أَنْ يَرْجِعَ خَيْرًا مِمَّا كَانَ وَلَا يُعَاوِدَ الْمَعَاصِي. And from the signs, the Hajj al-Mabrur is the Hajj that is accepted. Is the Hajj that is accepted. And from the signs that it was accepted is that the person, he will return better than he was whenever he left. That he will return in a state better than he was whenever he left. And also whenever he returns, he will not go back to actions of disobedience. He will not go back, and he will not go make Hajj. And whenever he makes Hajj, he will go and make Hajj and come home in a better state, and in faith, in obedience, in steadfastness than he was before he left. And likewise, whenever he returns, he will not fall back into accustoming himself to committing sins and disobedience. Some people, this is what they'll do. They'll perform actions of worship, and whenever they're finished, they'll go back to what they were upon before, which is similar like we see in these days, just after completing the month of Ramadan, which is the fourth pillar of Al-Islam. That many of the believers, they were striving hard in these numbered days, and as soon as those numbered days are completed and finished, they fall back into the sins that they were upon before. They regress, and they fall headfirst into actions of disobedience. وَلِيَذُ بِاللَّهِ. And the people of knowledge, they mentioned this is a sign that that action of worship was not accepted. As for the sign that it was accepted, then they will be in a better state than they were before. Then they will be in a better state than they were before. Similar like he's saying here with Hajj. So the sign that the Hajj is Mabroor is that a person, he will leave and he will go on this journey and he will return. And whenever he returns, he'll be in a better state than he was before. He'll be in a better state than he was before. Shaykhuna Shaykh Abdul Muhsin, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, he would say, if he was in a bad state, whenever he left, he'll come back in a good state. And if he was in a good state whenever he left, he'll come back in a better state. So this is the case. This is the sign that it's accepted. Only Allah Azza wa Jal knows. وَإِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Allah, He only accepts from the righteous. And each action of worship is only done with taqwa. It's only accepted whenever it's done with taqwa. So the sign of that is that a person, he will go make Hajj. And then he'll return and he will not be upon sin. He will not be upon disobedience. He will not be upon innovation. His heart will not be attached to the dunya in a manner that's blameworthy. He will not show preference with the worldly life over the hereafter. He will not be negligent. He will not be heedless. Rather, he will return and he will be upright. He will be steadfast. He will be full of light. He will be full of strong faith and obedience and steadfastness upon the path of Allah Azza wa Jal. Al-Hajj al-Mabroor, Al-Hafidh ibn Abd al-Barr, Al-Hafidh ibn Abd al-Barr, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned who al-Mutaqabbal. Similar to like what An-Nawawi he mentioned, rahimahullah, it is the one that is accepted. He says, وَقِيلَ الَّذِي لَا رِئَاءَ فِيهِ الَّذِي لَا رِئَاءَ فِيهِ وَلَا سُمْعَةَ وَلَا رَفَث وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَكَانَتْ النَّفَقَةُ فِيهِ مِنَ الْمَالِ الطَّيِّبِ وَكَانَ النَّفَقَةُ فِيهِ مِنَ الْمَالِ الطَّيِّبِ. He said here that the Hajj al-Mabrur, the righteous and the upright in Hajj that is accepted, it's the one that is accepted. Who al-Mutaqabbal. He said it's mentioned likewise that it's the one that has no showing off in it and nor wanting to be heard. الَّذِي لَا رِئَاءَ فِيهِ وَلَا سُمْعَةَ. And also la rafath, the one that has no rafath, yani al-fuhsh fil karami, the one that has no actions fil fi'li wal karam, and the one that has no rafath. What is intended, and Allah knows best from the rafath in this issue here is the vulgar and the foul speech, And the lowly speech and actions likewise. Is the lowly speech and actions likewise. وَلَا فُسُوق, and no actions of disobedience. And also the Hajj Al-Babroor is the one that he performs it upon earnings that are good. Earnings that are halal and good and permissible. Earnings that are halal and good and permissible. Meaning that to make Hajj with earnings that are haram is a means for that Hajj to be rejected and not be accepted. It's for a means to be rejected and to not be accepted. And likewise, arguing and disputing in the Hajj is for a reason for the Hajj to be rejected and not be accepted. Also, being rude and out of character and conduct and being harsh is for reasons for the Hajj to not be accepted. Also, being lowly and speaking about issues and topics that are considered lowly and indecent and foul. All of this is from reasons for the Hajj to not be accepted. Likewise, committing sin, falling into sin and actions of disobedience while one is performing the sacred rites of Hajj. While he's on that journey, then all of this is a reason for the Hajj to be rejected and to not be accepted. He mentioned a narration from Thawr ibn Yazid. He says, Rahimahullah, Man amma hadha al-bayt wa lam yakun lahu thalathu khisal lam yaslam lahu hajjuhu. That whoever intends to go to this house, meaning in order to make the sacred rites of Al-Hajj, and he did not have with him three traits, then his Hajj would not be safe, from deficiency, or from shortcoming, or from being rejected. He said, number one, Man lam yukun lahu hilmun yadbitu bihi jahlahu. The one who does not have forbearance, he's able to control his ignorance with. And a person, whenever he's making Hajj, he's telling you here, the only way your Hajj will be safe, if you're hoping to have the Hajj that's considered Mabroor, if you're hoping to have the reward, to have the reward of paradise, and for this effort here, then you must have forbearance and patience. And this is something that's very true. In order to do what? In order to control oneself and to not act a fool. Because whenever a person goes to Hajj, there are going to be people pushing him. There may be even people acting a fool with him, calling him names. Somebody may steal from him. Somebody may pickpocket him, or try to pickpocket him, or somebody may take his spot in line, or somebody may be rude to him or harsh with him, or somebody may violate his rights in his face directly. His brother in ihram with him, and the likes like this. All of these things may happen. Things may go wrong. He might have his hotel he might be taken, or his bus might not be there, or somebody might push him out of the way and take his vehicle, or you never know what's going to happen in Hajj. So a person, he's saying here, hilmun yadbitu bihi jahlahu. He has to have great forbearance in order to control himself and to not act in a manner of ignorance, and to not act a fool with the people who act foolish, and to not come out of character. And he mentioned likewise, he says, وَوَرَعٌ عَمَّا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. And also he has to have piety and fear of Allah to avoid everything that Allah has made impermissible from him. And he said, وَحُسْنُ السُّحْبَةِ لِمَنْ صَحِبَهُ. And also he has to have good companionship. To treat kindly and in a well manner those who are accompanying him. So also from the means, and he's telling us here from the means for the Hajj to be accepted and to be good, first he has to have great forbearance and patience in order to not act a fool, in order to not raise his voice, in order to not come out of character, in order to not curse at anybody, in order to not argue with anybody, in order to not dispute with anybody, to be able to just control himself for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jalla, out of fear of violating some sacred rights or decreasing the reward of his Hajj. And likewise, he has to have also piety and fear of Allah Azza wa Jalla, to not fall into anything that is haram or impermissible. And also he has to have noble conduct and manners, specifically with those who are accompanying him. In the Hajj, and those who he's seeing in the morning time and in the evening time, whenever he's hungry and whenever he's full, those people that are with him the whole time. So this is something that requires great patience and great effort and great fear of Allah Azza wa Jal. Al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah ta'ala, he was asked about Mal Hajj al-Mabrur. What is the righteous and the accepted Hajj? He said, أن يدفع زاهدا في الدنيا راغبا في الآخرة. And again, for those who intend to make this sacred rites, they need to understand these affairs. Al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah, he was asked, what is Al-Hajj al-Mabrur? What is Al-Hajj al-Mabrur? He said, to set out turning away from the worldly life and desiring or hoping for the hereafter. And he said the whole journey is a journey seeking the hereafter, not the worldly life. In the beginning, it's a journey seeking the hereafter, seeking the pleasure of Allah, seeking the reward from Allah, seeking the status and rank with Allah in the hereafter, and the good home of the hereafter, and turning away from this worldly life. He's saying this is the Hajj that is considered Mabroor. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, he said, Al-Hajj al-Mabroor huwa it'amu ta'am wa husnu suhbah. Al-Hajj al-Mabroor, the righteous and the good accepted Hajj is feeding the people food, and giving in charity, and likewise accompanying the people in goodness. Accompany the people in goodness. And to emphasize the issue of having good manners, especially with those who accompany one on the Hajj, and those who are along with him in the journey, to be in the best of manners specifically with them. To be in the best of manners specifically with them. So all of this is from the issue of the righteous and the good Hajj. The Hajj that has no reward except for Jannah, this is Al-Hajj al-Mabroor. It's the Hajj that is done sincerely for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jalla. It's done with the intention that is pure, hoping for the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alone, not wanting anything else, not hoping to be seen, not hoping to be heard, not hoping to be praised, not hoping to have status, not hoping to be known as so-and-so that makes Hajj all the time, and the likes like this. Rather to seek the pleasure of Allah alone. And likewise, the one who performs the actions of Hajj and the sacred rites of Al-Hajj according to the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he does not violate any of those sacred rites intentionally. And he does not violate any of those sacred rites intentionally. He will not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that journey. He will not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that journey. And this is contrary to what we see to some people today, specifically the women. Specifically the women, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned, لا يحل لامرأة تؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر تسافر مسيرة يوم وليلة إلا بذي محرم. إلا بذي محرم. That it's not allowed for a woman who believes in Allah in the last day to travel the distance of one day and one night, except with a person who is her mahram. And now she will travel by herself with no mahram in order to go make the great sacred rites of Al-Hajj. This is contrary. This is contrary. He will not disobey Allah Azza wa Jal to obey Allah. He will not disobey to obey Allah. It's not even right-minded. It's not even right-minded that he will commit actions of disobedience, things that are not allowed nor permissible, and things that would earn the anger of Allah, and claims to obey Allah and perform actions of obedience, or rather to establish a pillar from the pillars of Al-Islam. A pillar from the pillars of Al-Islam. So this is something to keep in mind. The Hajj, the one that is accepted, is the one that has this reward. And it's the one that's described like this. That is in accordance with the legislation. And then there's no sin accompanying that. Not while he's traveling, not while he's in ihram especially, not when he's in those sacred lands especially, not whenever he's in those sacred days and times especially, but also whenever he's traveling. So long as he's set on that journey, so long as he left, and whenever he leaves his home to go on that journey, he's on that journey making Hajj. Now he's in ibadah from the beginning to the end. From the beginning to the end. So he must fear Allah Azza wa Jal. And even before that, the funds that he saves and the money that he is earning to perform Hajj, it must be lawful. He cannot make Hajj with money that is haram, with money that is earned from alcohol, or from interest, or from transactions that are forbidden, or from other unlawful means. There must be from the wealth that is permissible and wholesome and good, in order for the Hajj to be accepted. In order for the Hajj to be accepted. So this is something that is a great opportunity for every believer to strive and to hope to make Hajj at least one time in one's life, if not more. And likewise the Umrah. So the people of knowledge, they mentioned that the Hajj, it is an obligation. It is an obligation. And it's an obligation to perform. An obligation upon every believer, and who has the ability. And it's an obligation to perform it one time in a lifetime. One time in a lifetime. There are obligations that are performed once in a lifetime, and there are obligations that are performed once in a year, and there are obligations that are performed once in a week, and there are obligations that are performed a number of times every day. And this is the case of Al-Islam. There are obligations that must be established in different periods. Sometimes some obligations every day, sometimes more than one time a day, like As-Salah, the obligatory Salah. And there are other obligations that must be performed once a year, like fasting of Ramadan, or before that likewise as zakat. Zakat could be performed more than that likewise, but it's also from the obligations that are performed once a year. And also fasting the month of Ramadan is an obligation that's performed once a year. And also the Hajj is an obligation that's performed once in a lifetime. There's an obligation that's performed with every breath. It must be performed with every breath. The first pillar. We did all four. The first pillar, التوحيد. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.